Hey Rebecca, I do have some suggestions for you taking a look at it. One of the first things that you'll probably notice when it's in PDF format that's really hard to notice in Illustrator is that you have two different blacks going on. So you have the CMYK black and the RGB black. So make sure that you make them all RGB black. So you'll probably have to click on them individually and change it to RGB instead of CMYK. Another thing is mostly issues with some of the cohesiveness between the different icons. So for example, like with the rounded head for the owl here, I think this is the owl. Oh, no, that's a penguin, isn't it? Okay, so for the penguin, so I guess one issue would be make him a penguin because these two are very, very close. So between this one and this one, if I didn't see this one, then I would have probably just thought that this one was the... Oh, I don't even know. Now I'm not even sure. I think this one's a penguin, but I'm not sure. But yeah, just make sure that you can discern between those two. Anyway, and with whatever this one is, make sure that you don't do a rounded head because you don't have a rounded head anywhere else. So as we were talking about before, since you're doing mostly sharp edges and squares and like what you have here, which is still kind of like an edge, then you can't use the rounded head because it doesn't match with any of these other ones. So you have to make that a little bit more squarish so that it's cohesive with the other ones. The other thing that I was going to say is with this one here, the way that you have the ears, it almost looks like it's a round head instead of a square head, so you'll want to play with that too. With the wings, since none of these have anything sticking out from them, as we kind of talked about, like do the wings as you have a sharp edge here on the side and then the wing is like a cut into the square itself. So you still have a sharp edge here, but then you have the line going in kind of like if you look at what I drew on your tight sketches that we worked on, you have the sharp edge and then just the line going into it. So that's what I mean for that, so that you don't have these things sticking out on the side. And then for the owl, I would, all right, sorry, I had a phone call for a second. So on the penguin here, also these little things on the top don't really go with any of it. And the, what was the other thing? Oh, his eyes, are different than the rest of it. So I would change a lot of stuff about this guy here and just basically go through, and you really want to look at what you're working with one of them and make sure that when you go to the next one that you're not really introducing too many new elements, and if you introduce those new elements then you got to try and make sure that you kind of incorporate them in the rest of them. So the things that you can focus on are having the same eyes like you do, the straight edges and the squares that make up the feet and the body and everything else. You have a triangle for his beak, and I guess he has the same beak, but then they have different stuff. And then when you get to the snake is like a completely different story in itself because he's going to be totally different than the rest of these. You have the straight edges going on, which is good. Not sure what happened with the head. You got like a triangle here and then straight here. I think if you still did the snake that this would work a little bit better, but the issue with him is that he's a totally different size than the rest of these guys, so it's going to be a challenge trying to fill in this weight the same as the rest of them, because these heads are a lot bigger and the bodies are a lot bigger and stuff. You might want to consider doing a different animal instead of the snake, because this one's going to be a challenge to get the same as the rest of these. And then the last thing that I was going to say was the squares on the inside of the bodies. You might want to take those out because you're going to have this line that goes straight down here and then have like a white line that cuts into it. And then so that will kind of be the detail inside of the body. But having the square inside of it, I don't know if that really fits with it. Yeah, because if you zoom out, you can see that these have like this big white section, and then these are very, very dark compared to these. And since the line weight on these is still kind of thin and it's all the same, then these stand out a lot more than these do. Um, I'm not. I would still add the circle behind it, maybe, and then that way you can put a white stroke around the owl, which will pop out on the black circle behind it, and then I'll make it a little bit more uniform with all these little white lines on the elephant and on the hippo and stuff. Also, when it's really small, you start to lose some of the detail on like the elephant and stuff, like in the eyes. So maybe thicken up some of those areas a little better, play with it so that it stands out a little bit more. And I think that's just about it. Hey, and if you make some renditions and you want to email it to me for some more suggestions, you're welcome to. All right. Sorry, one last thing that I forgot to mention that will, it's a little trick that will at least kind of tie these together. Because right now, these two look like they're part of a set, and these two kind of look like they're part of a set. So in order to make these look similar to these, what you could do is, on this one, put the white stroke around the face, kind of like you have with the hippo and with the elephant here. So to not have that there makes them look totally different. So just on here, make sure that you go in and, like I said, put the wing, the white line coming in here for the wing part, and then the stroke around the head, and that will kind of help it mimic these two up here, and same with the penguin. Okay?